All right, we're gonna try this again. See if we get the audio to come through on this mic. See how we're doing here. Okay, so sounds like this is a decent set of settings. We're also going to try this setting and see if that makes a difference. Okay, so it does sound like we're going to have to go with this preset. Otherwise, it just ends up being way too quiet for the stream. So hopefully this is good enough. Downside to this setting is it seems like I'm gonna have to basically eat my microphone in order for it to work. There we go. Had to make some adjustments to the filter. So I apologize for the static and the background noise while I was getting everything adjusted, but this should work now. So I did a little gating on the microphone. Hopefully there's not going to be too many pops that like doesn't blow out the stream's audio on the microphone or anything like that. And if this is good, then we can get started. All right, welcome everybody. Whether you're watching during the stream or in the future, we're going to be doing some more 3D modeling in Maya. Currently working on a set of weapons that'll hopefully be usable for different projects or games or whatever. Obviously, if there's any questions that you guys have, feel free to ask. You can always post comments and I can follow up with questions during my next stream. My plan is to currently be streaming every day during the week, as that currently works for my schedule at the moment. And hopefully you guys will enjoy as we go along. So, all right. All right, so we are picking up where we left off yesterday. Before we can do that, just gonna get some background music going for myself here. Cool. And let me just double check, make sure that's not coming through. Okay, yeah, perfect. Cool. All right, so let's get going on this. So yesterday, what we were doing is we are building some of these mechanical components to this crossbow design. Basically, the idea being that whenever the crossbow is fired, the string would come up into its resting position at the front, and then you would have this set of hooks that would grab onto the string, and using this handle, you would pump the crossbow like a shotgun, sliding back the action, which would grab these hooks and slide them back. Sorry. These hooks would grab onto the crossbow string and grab onto them, pull it back to its ready position back here. And so you would essentially reset the crossbow. And there is another bolt in here, right? And the idea being that this would be a clip that could be loaded in and out of the crossbow. So in the forward position, it basically could slot in here. And you'd have a clip of bolts that could then be fired. Basically the idea is like, you know, it would shoot very much like a lever action rifle. I guess it's loaded like a lever action rifle, but it shoots, you know, and the action is more like a shotgun. But yeah, so what we're doing right now is we are building a set of gearing teeth along this rail, which then is going to come down here and sit on top of this gear. So as the gear spins, the rail is essentially pulled back from its fired position, you know, being forward. But to do that, I created a sizing block. And so I'm doing the very boring and repetitive task of inserting a bunch of edge loops along this rail. And eventually all of these will be extruded out to look like one of these gear teeth like this. So we're just gonna keep doing the boring and repetitive work of, you know, inserting more edge loops. It's, you know, there probably is a more efficient way of doing this. I probably could just duplicate what I already have and just like weld it together, you know, copy pasta to make the rail longer. But I'm a firm believer in sunk cost fallacy. So I'm just gonna keep on trudging along, even though I probably shouldn't. And there's probably definitely a more time efficient way of doing this. What's the joy in that when you can just mindlessly insert more edge loops? And you know, it's kind of satisfying to just kind of do this repetitive edge loop insert work here. You know, and that's the thing, right? Is humans are really good at doing, you know, repetitive tasks. In the sense that, like, you know, we don't have to think very hard about what we're doing. It's kind of mindless. Just kind of cruise along doing the same thing over and over again. You know, as we're in the last stream, I was trying to, you know, design some of this stuff on the fly, which is a terrible idea. You should never do that. Oh, you should do your best to try to do all your design work on paper, you know, beforehand, or at very least, you know, if you know, you struggle with, you know, drawing, for example, and you prefer to, you know, do your concept and design phase in 3D, then you should not be doing it like what I'm doing, where, you know, I'm adding details to the model before the final concept is even finished. It's a terrible idea. Shouldn't be doing that, you know, bad Torin. But, you know, like I said yesterday, you should definitely do as I say and not as I do, like a irresponsible parent. Okay. So, I mean, it wasn't that bad. I got all of our edge loops inserted for our gear bar. All right, and then we're going to manually do the extrusion. Oh, and we got to make sure that we're matching at least somewhat closely the height of that. And we'll just grab that. Cool. Might not be perfect, but for our purposes, it will be good enough. Zero that out. And now what we've got is we've got a set of very poorly fitting gears that do technically work. Kind of. So, fun fact, I haven't actually like animated any of this stuff to actually make sure that like the you know, the action on the weapon, like the handle, you know, would actually cause these to rotate in the proper ways, which is not a good idea. It's very bad. Again, very much doing my design on the fly, which, you know, as I keep saying, is a genuinely bad idea. You know, shouldn't be doing that at all. But you know, here we are. So, yeah. The good news is that I will actually be able to test this soon. All right, get this. Okay. All right, that should actually work. I believe we have to slide this up a bit. See, now we're getting down to the nitty-gritty, you know, realism of the design. And I mean, it's probably not going to be perfect no matter what we do. I think there's going to be mathematical issues with the gearing ratios no matter how we slice this, unfortunately. But that is just going to be something we're going to have to deal with. You know, at some point you have to accept that no matter what you do, it's probably not ever going to be perfect. You know, you would need an actual degree in mechanical engineering to build something that actually functions in real life. We're not trying to do that. We're just trying to like approximate, you know, something that could theoretically work. Okay, so what we've got here is on the top, we clearly have you know, a catch point where this first tooth of this bar, this rail, gear rail, catches this cog, right? which is what we want. Yeah, so basically this length will bridge this gap, and that's what we want. And then obviously we want it to slide all the way into position here, which theoretically that last tooth on that rail would be long enough. Now, we are going to have to probably adjust the form factor of the crossbow arms and the handle at the front. But that's relatively easy to rework some of the silhouettes here to accommodate, the actual mechanical bits. And you do want to be careful with that because it depends on your goals of the design. Do you want it to be more practical and realistic, or do you want it to be more artistically interesting to look at? So it's just going to be the design requirements of whatever it is you're working on. Because some projects very much prioritize the aesthetic over the practicality. And often you don't get to do both. Sometimes, not even sometimes, most often, you have to do one or the other. You don't get to accomplish both at the same time. It's just not realistic because it takes a certain amount of time investment to make something practical, and it also takes a different amount of time to make something look good. And so you're essentially doubling how difficult something is to produce when you do it like that. So yeah. Yeah, I'm foreseeing some issues here with the design that I've created. It shouldn't be that big of a deal, though. I think what I'm going to have to do, though, is I'm going to have to create a drop for the action handle, where basically, after pulling it back into position, right, it drops down and then releases tension. Because what's happened is, the hooks have pulled the string back into position, and then by dropping the handle down, you've released the gear system from tension, so that when the string triggers, it will pull the string forward, and it'll pull the slide bar and the gears forward and the whip forward, and it won't be an issue because you've released tension on here. And then to reset, you simply push forward, which I don't think will be a problem. It might. Might need to. Okay, so it'd be a pull back and a drop down. It would trigger, right? Then you'd push forward and it would slide back up onto the main bar. It would go forward, but when it catches here, the rail bar would already be forward. So you'd probably have to create a secondary rail that is like a spring-loaded, it'd be like a carabiner. It'd be like a spring load, where the rail would there'd be a second set of rails underneath this one, and it would loop together. So basically, it would drop down. Oops. So basically, this would drop. Yeah, it would drop down onto the under rail, right? It would slide along until it got up here, and then it would just be a loop where it would basically go up and around and connect back onto here. And as it comes up and around, it would slot into the gears, and then you would pull back on it again And as it goes through this midpoint, it would have the spring-loaded, guide bar basically, and it would slide all the way along here. When it gets back here, it would drop down, releasing the gear system again. Cool. Okay, so that's not that big of a deal, right? That's a relatively easy fix for our theoretical mechanical problem that we're going to have here. So that's not that big of a deal. Okay, so what we've got is we've got the hooks and the rail will bridge the distance between the two different gear sets, right? They bridge, between here effectively. So the question is, does this rail bar? It does not. It does not, in fact, bridge far enough, which is weird. Okay, so how far does this stick out? Okay, so this is already sticking out this far, so theoretically we could extend this rail bar by at least this far. So rather than doing that, let's just duplicate this. And we'll line this up here and snap this to the previous one. And then what we can do is we can just figure out how many cog teeth we need to add on, which I think is not going to be that much. Yeah, if we can cut it off right. Whoa. Come on. Don't be like that. There we go. Not sure what that was. Zoomed out all the way for some reason. Okay. What I was saying was I think we can just cut that off right here. And I think that'll suffice. So let's get rid of our extra faces. We're going to need to combine these objects into a single mesh. Oh, that's not good. Hang on a second. I did that wrong. Okay, cool. So I accidentally, you may have saw that. There we go. Just get that deleted now. Realign that, snap that back in. Merge these together. And start welding these vertices. All right. Okay, now that we've got that extended, we are not going to need anything beyond this point. So we can just delete that. And we can grab the edges and fill the hole in, and we're good to go. Something that I don't think you guys can see because of how I'm streaming, the software that I'm working in. I'm streaming Maya. When I right click and hold, I'm actually getting a shortcut menu where I can access my edges, vertices, and faces in the object. It's just a really handy modeler's tool when you're working with components of a 3D model. But because I'm streaming the application window rather than capturing my entire screen, my desktop background and everything, I don't think you're going to be able to see those pop-ups. So just let you know, if you're using Maya, if you have a model, you right click and hold on that model, you're going to get a little pop-up screen that you're going to be able to look at. which is nice. But okay, moving on. So what we've got now is we have a I honestly forget where this needs to be placed now. I think place it like that. Yeah, because at this point it bridges the gap between these two sets of gears, and then this is going to slide forward and rest here. Although we might actually have to slide it further forward, because that is quite the problem. Okay, so ideally it would be something like this. However, I don't think... Oof. Okay, so what about something like that? Well, that's not ideal by any means. However, that's also not really a problem. You know what though? Let's try to get it. Make a compromise. We'll go to here. Yeah, because the only, well, I mean, there is technically another way of doing this. All we have to do is add another set here. So 3. And then what ends up happening is that the size of the rail that we need actually becomes much smaller because we've added a third gear set. Because at that point, we only need it to reach here. Okay, so here's a trick. When you guys are working in 3D, just make duplicates. You know, if you're going to do something where you're going to destroy a model that you've worked on, just make a copy of it, set it aside. It's like making a backup copy of something without needing to save a whole new file. You should save often, but that's just an easy way of making a backup of your previous work before you try something new. And it has saved me many a time. The other thing you want to do is when you do a drag, shift drag selection, you do usually want to rotate around your selection, make sure you haven't grabbed any weird faces that you didn't mean to, or vertices or whatever. Otherwise you end up selecting something on the backside of a model and you end up deleting parts of a piece of work that you didn't mean to, and then you don't realize that you did that for a couple of hours, and then you find the hole that you punched through your model, and then you have to go back and fix it. And let me tell you, it's just a giant pain in the butt. So avoid that by making backups and checking your selections. Okay, cool. So what we've got now is we've got a smaller rail that doesn't impede our trigger, that bridges the gap between each of the smaller gaps between the gear sets. And when it goes all the way to the front, it doesn't stick out past the body of the crossbow. In fact, if we're going to go with a third gear set, technically speaking, because this gear tooth has it all the way forward, and then this gear tooth has it captured And then this gear tooth has it captured. And we're going to go ahead and make a duplicate. Save our work here too. But theoretically, we're not going to need... We're not going to need this. Hopefully. And if we do, we have a backup. But hopefully it just works. Yep, all the way back to here. Yep, and that's in contact with our gear set. And that. And those ones. Yep. And those ones. Cool. Yep. Okay, so here's where things get weird, right? Because now that we have a theoretical set of working mechanisms, now we need to actually animate it to check to see if everything spins in the right direction. Because if it doesn't, I'm going to be rethinking how I do this. I mean, theoretically, the only thing you have to do is you just duplicate the last gear in the system and you just put one right next to it at a slightly different angle. And then it spins one direction and it spins the other cog the other direction. So, yeah, we'll see if that even works. So basically, I'm going to... Well, shoot. The other thing I got to do is I need to... Well, no, I need to figure out the gear ratios work first. And then I can deal with the rail, the pump rail at the bottom doing the right thing. So I can deal with that last, because that's a minor fix compared to like the core mechanism. But if this works, this is a cool looking crossbow. I mean, it's got like some steampunk mother freaking stuff going on over here. And theoretically, this might actually possibly be practical even, in a very like break your arms from trying to pull back hundreds of pounds of pressure, but still. Also, I mean, like, that's also not assuming like any like metal fatigue and like, what materials are you using, Like, I don't think they had titanium alloys back in the day to be able to withstand the type of pressure we're talking about here that'd be exerted on this system. But that's neither here nor there, right? Who cares about things like pounds of pressure? Silly, You want to be able to shoot orcs in the face with crossbows. So, okay. So first things first, we are going to find this. Right, yeah. Let's group everything together. Okay, I don't think I'm grabbing anything weird. Delete the history. I don't need this camera. Get that in there. Okay, cool. So we've got a few extra pieces laying around, but it's not a big deal. Okay. Next, we want to group our meshes together. Action handle. Okay. Yeah, might as well just do this one stage at a time. So what we're going to do is we're going to engage in some very, very basic rigging in order to get an idea of how this is all going to function. And when I say basic, I mean like really, really basic, like not an actual rig at all. We're just going to do some basic group parenting. So that we can do some quick animations to test to make sure the gears are actually working correctly. All right, cool. So let's grab our timeline here. And why don't we work with 48, 72 frames. That'll give us 3 seconds of movement to work with. And we can expand from there. Okay. So let's say, set a keyframe, and let's say it takes 48 frames to pull the action all the way back to here. Cool. So now we've got our moving handle. Very nice. Okay, now next thing, we want to animate our gears in such a way that we can try and simulate the oh wow, I really shouldn't have done that. That was a bad idea, but oh well. Moving on. We're trying to simulate the gears actually functioning. Okay, cool. Let's grab this gear, get this in a group. Okay. And then we've got our circle. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to grab our group, throw that in there, and now we've got a spinning gear. Nice. Okay, so we're going to have to do a number of keyframes. So first things first, we're going to want to rotate this so the gear cogs match up, and we're going to keyframe that. And then what we're going to do, let's do every 5 frames. That'll be nice and easy to keep up with. Okay, so five frames, set key. So you're gonna have to forgive me. I am not an animator. I am sure there's a more efficient way of doing this, but I'll be honest with you, I'm not sure what that is. All right, cool. So far, so good. Does look like, however, that our control curve is off center from the actual center of the gear, which is unfortunate, but you know what? Too deep in now to give a crap. Besides, we're also just trying to test this to make sure this is even remotely mechanically feasible to have it set up this way. So that's really what we're testing here anyway. And we don't need to do the full 48 seconds as of just yet, because we need to check to see if our gearing even remotely even works. Because it might not. And if it doesn't, we've got to cope with those issues. Okay, so let's get our next gear, get that in a group. And grab this bad boy here. Alrighty. And here we go. You know, I actually think that's gonna work. As dumb as that is, and you know, for every reason that definitely should not have worked at all, I think it actually might. Uh-oh. I think something weird's going on with our animation here, because I think we're supposed to be doing this. Nice. Okay. Well, that's actually working, which is awesome. Next, we want to grab these and group those together. You know, so while this set of gears actually works, ironically, I think I might have done it the wrong way. I think maybe the big gear needs to be on the top and the little gear needs to be on the bottom. Yeah, I think that's what's going on here. Huh. But still, the fact that this concept even remotely works is fascinating to me, because this is an idea I've had for quite a while, and this is even remotely the first time I've seen any amount of proof that this might actually work in any way, shape, or form. So this is kind of fantastic. So, all right, I'm going to take a quick break, and I will return to more pseudo-mechanical engineering that is totally impractical. So I'll be back, guys.
Flutter on the wings of a butterfly. I can take you high, I can take you high. Flutter on the wings of a butterfly. I can take you high, I can take you high. Flutter on the wings of a butterfly. I can take you high, I can take you high. Flutter on the wings of a butterfly. I can take you high, I can take you high. 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 Flutter on the wings of a butterfly. I can take you high, I can take you high. Flutter on the wings of a butterfly. I can take you high, I can take you high. Flutter on the wings of a butterfly. I can take you high, I can take you high. Flutter on the wings of a butterfly. I can take you high, I can take you high. 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 I can take you high.
All right, guys. Let's get back to it. All right. All right, so I haven't really been talking much this whole time. I've really just been focusing. So I apologize for the silence. But as you can see here, I've been marking the teeth of the gears, try to be able to track if the gears are properly lining up. And I'm trying to do every 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Perfect. Cool. Neat. All right. So the colors let me track if the gears are slipping. I think it's good. So an interesting thing, I think I actually did do the gearing ratios correctly, because what ends up happening here is that as the slide progresses, I think what's going on is that this slide is actually being pushed further along than the pull on the handle, because this is almost like this is one length. Well, no, I guess it's about the same. So I guess this is more of a 1-to-1 ratio. So this actually might not be mechanically advantageous at all, but it might theoretically actually work. So yeah, which is interesting. Okay, well, at this point, we're going to need to start rigging the other gears. The good news is I think that our design is actually feasible, which is really cool. So the question is do I need to finish animating the full 48 frames or not? I'm really tempted to do it because part of me really wants to see what the full gear system looks like. But the other part of me kind of feels like that's probably a waste of time. But at the same time, it would allow me to make sure that the handoff of the rail, the gear rails at the top and the bottom actually work, and that all the gearing ratios are done properly. I kind of think I need to do that because what I suspect is going to happen is that the top rail up here is actually going to get to its destination location faster than the actual handle at the bottom is going to get all the way back, because I think the gearing ratios are going to do that. So part of me wants to kind of continue. I'm already almost halfway there, and now that I've already done the first half, I don't think it'd be too much harder to finish up. So I think I'm going to give it a shot. Get a drink there. Okay.
Attention, you're being followed. Shall I dispatch the welcoming drones?
All right, guys. I apologize. I know I'm just cracking away at doing this animation, which I am. I feel a little bad though. I just sitting here chunking away at this. But I feel like I'm making pretty good progress, which is really cool. Let's see. Here, large, back. All right. All right. Let's see. Okay. Here, large, back. All right, get that. All right, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, and get this set. All right. Okay. All right, all right, all right. Okay, cool. So now that we've got the large gears, now we just need to do the small gears. Stick those back there. Oh, hang on a second. Do that first. There we go. Okay, now. All right, grab group, and then this is Gear, small, mid. Okay. All right. Gear, small, mid. One, two, three, four, five. All right. Uh-oh. Ooh, I think I've misjudged the gear placement. Oof. Well, gonna have to deal with that anyway. Not that that's that big of a deal. Okay. So, made some good progress. I'll be right back. I'm going to grab a quick snack, get some food, and then I'll be back for a bit longer.
I think I saw the same thing when it told me about love and now it's gone. Now it's gone.
it's hard. You are all I know, oh darling. I can bare my soul to you.
give it all to you. Thinking we can make this right. Was it something I did? Still I wonder. I give it all to you. Thinking we can make this right. Was it something I did? Still I wonder. I give it all to you. I give it all to you. I give it all to you. Thinking we can make this right. Was it something I did? Still I wonder.
Okay. Sorry about the break, but really needed to get a meal. So we are back at it. So we're going to be continuing the animation of the different cog wheels. Okay, group, gear, small, back. small back. Okay, so what do we got? All right, and then we'll do marker here and here. Okay, cool. All right. Well, that was quite the journey that we just went on over the last 2 days, but we have got a working result. Okay, so I was thinking that so there's 2 ways to do a trigger mechanism on a crossbow. One is where you have the trigger catch embedded in the base of the crossbow underneath the string, where the trigger catch actually is flipped more like this. And it actually is embedded, and so it holds the string like this. And instead rotates down. And the reason why this is a good trigger mechanism is because this motion of rotating down still holds the string level with the crossbow. Typically, you would not use a trigger mechanism that rotates up like this, because what would happen is as this rotates up, the string would become caught on the hook and rotate up as well until it got to the point where it rotated so far up that the string would snap down and then slam into the arrow here. Now that's not good, because what's more likely to happen is it'll snap down and bounce over top of it, and then you end up not shooting anything. In fact, if it clips this, it'll just send the bolt flying off into random nowhere, which obviously is not good. However, this design should not have that problem, because what happens is as the trigger mechanism rotates up, the string itself becomes caught on the hooks that are holding it in place, and therefore prevents the string from going off course, and then of course is released from the hook, which then grabs the rail, which then slams into the bolt, which then pushes the bolt down the track. Now, so that's all good. Now technically, I could theoretically build a gear system that basically, like, when the trigger rotates, it actually, turns this, but that's not really needed, because that would just be assumed that those gears would be embedded in the stock of the crossbow. And since that's not any form of exterior gear mechanisms that we're not going to see anyway, there's no point in modeling that. Again, if this was like a hero's weapon and like this is the primary weapon of like a main character, then maybe you would put that much detail into the crossbow, because then you could get away with, really high detail, like, cutscenes for story moments. But unless your weapon is serving that type of purpose, there's really no point in doing that type of thing, with a model like this. So as it is, we're already probably doing way too much planning and building as it is. Like, this is kind of overkill already, let alone doing like a hero weapon, right? So that just doesn't make any sense to go that far. So we're just going to leave that as in, and it's just kind of assumed that there's a set of gears and mechanics inside of the trigger mechanism that when the trigger pulls, the latch rotates and releases the string. Now, there is one thing we're going to need to do, which is we need to modify this rail here, in the sense that, in order for this to be, again, we're trying to keep, like, detail's fine up to a certain extent, right? But, like, we don't want to go overboard, but there is a set of details that I think is useful in this case. Basically, all of these gears are engaged, right? So what would end up happening is currently, if this trigger mechanism rotated and the string was released, right, and it grabbed the rail, it would slam against the gears and it would push the gears along, which would slow down the string, right, which is not ideal. But it would also grab the handle and slam the handle forward as well, which isn't ideal because, if you're holding this handle, you're going to get that ripped out of your hand when you let go of, the pounds of pressure on the crossbow. So what we need a release mechanism where the rail releases the tension on the gear system, kind of like the clutch on a manual car transmission. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a very simple adjustment, which is we're just simply going to slide this down. Well, actually, we're going to rotate this and then slide it down. And we're going to add another edge loop here. Okay. Let's see. All right. And just grab this, slide it down. There we go. Okay, cool. So what this does is we have effectively created a system where this, in fact, here. So need to slide this rail back to about here, and then grab this, and a few frames later this slides down into position. Okay, cool. So what we've got is the animation plays, right? Which slides the rail back. And then at the very end, it clicks down and into place away from the gear system so that when the trigger goes off, it will not engage the bottom rail. Cool. So. All right. Now there's one other thing that we have to do though, because what's going to happen here is that we need this handle to end up back over here. But the problem is that when the rail is all the way here, right? These gears are actually physically engaged, right? And as this rail comes forward, it can't push this rail any far forward, right? Any farther forward. So that's not going to work. So what we need instead is at this point in the rail, we need the handle to diverge and go down to a lower rail. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to duplicate this and we're going to slide this down here. And freeze that transformation. Okay. And then we'll grab this. Okay. All right, so we can also grab this vertex and basically we want it to be something like that. And what this is going to do is we're going to cut a slot in the rail. Okay. Okay, and so what this is going to do is when the handle gets to this point, it's going to slide down into the lower rail. And then it's going to slide over here. And then I believe what we want is to extend this a little further. And we want to... Shoot, how are we going to do this? Something like this. Delete that. Delete that. Do. Ruh-roh. That's not what I wanted. There we go. Okay.
Somewhere across the water, give me some time to myself. I'm always dreaming.
Okay, cool. So basically, what we've got here is we've got a switch system. Let's get a quick little mesh here. Get these situated. There's just going to be our little flip gates here.
Somewhere across the water, give me some time to myself. I'm always dreaming.
Okay, cool. I think that gives us what we need. So basically what this does, basically this slides back. When it gets here, this lash rotates down into place, allowing that to pass by and slot down and disengage from the gear system. If this is spring loaded, this flips back up. Then when you need to reload the crossbow, this goes back up onto the main rail, slides forward till it hits here. It slides down into the lower rail over here. And then this gets pushed up. This goes up and clicks into place. This rotates back down. And it is now reset to start again. And there you go. A theoretically working mechanical crossbow. I'll be honest, I thought maybe the design would work, but I honestly doubted if it would actually come together like that at the end. But it did. So there's still some inconsistencies, right? There's the fact that technically this middle rail is floating and isn't connected in any real or meaningful way, which obviously is a problem. That could probably be solved with some clever work on, where how the handle is positioned and, how the slide works and everything like that. So I could theoretically work my way around that. But honestly, from that distance, you're not going to notice little details like that. So it really doesn't actually matter in any real sense. So yeah. Yeah, there are ways of fixing that. Basically changing how the handle would basically hang down, and the rollers would have like a Y clip that would go on them. It would hang. Basically, the rail would be like hook in from the side down like this, and then that would leave the middle free, and then you could attach the rail to the middle part of here, which I might do anyway because that could actually look cool to give it an even more mechanical look to it. But that's not necessary. It's not actually needed, but it would look cool. So maybe I'll do that later. But basically what we've got is we've got a mechanical crossbow animated and ready to go. Now, to be fair, I could complete the animation, have like the firing sequence, and then have the reload animation go as well, so that it could effectively loop. And if you were making, a finalized animation for the weapon, where you do reloads and stuff, you would basically use a series of bones for all the gears and the different triggering mechanisms and stuff, and then you'd then time out a set of animations, basically that is done in such a way that it can be looped, and cycled inside of a game engine. So yeah, that's basically that. So the plan, this is the medium style crossbow. The idea is that this is now a framework, or like a foundational template, And as you make new versions of this, you would then, slap new pieces and, gear coverings or, decorations or bow arms or, change out the stock design. All these pieces could theoretically be replaced with new designs. Even you could change out the handle, as long as you don't, mess around with, the pin that slides back and forth along the rail set. So yeah, you would have various components that you would change out to make different variations of weapons of the medium rifle styled crossbow. So same thing with the clip. You could make a couple of different designs, of the clip. You could add some extra modeling along the bottom. Not a lot of clearance there because of the rail system, but you could make it work. You wouldn't be too hard. So, but yeah. So I'll probably do some extra work. I'll probably, do what I said. I'll probably make the Y hanger, to the outside of the bolt and cut out the middle, drop the handle down, connect the inner rail to the body of the crossbow so that's actually, structurally sound. Probably end up deleting the animations. The animation was really just a proof of concept to make sure that the sets of gears actually functioned correctly, that the concept worked, which it does, which is great. Since this isn't, I'm trying to think. So this isn't the rigging phase. So the question would be, if I want this to be a honest to goodness template, then what I would probably do is I'd probably want to actually rig this, and then any components that actually need to be bound to the bones that actually need to move and bound to the bones and animated, those would be the components where I would not want to change those components out between each version of the medium crossbow, and that would be the part of the work that I would not repeat. I would add other pieces on top or around or over, in addition to the basic design to give it, a unique look and feel. But any of the pieces that were actually, skinned and weighted to the bones would need to be basically set in stone as part of the baseline template. Which could be a little problematic. So the gear assemblies wouldn't be a problem, but a lot of the other pieces would. You would want to change the design of the crossbow string based on the... Well, no, not necessarily. You could probably just template the UVs onto the colors. That's color schemes I'm going to go for. Because I guess you would just change out the texture. You wouldn't actually change the model. So that's probably fine. In fact, I should probably assign this some different material IDs to get a better idea of what I'm dealing with here. All right, let's make a duplicate of this. So first things first, we can get rid of, no, let's duplicate this first. Okay, so we got this. Shoot. There we go. Get those in the group. We don't need you. We can also set these aside because we don't really need these either. stick you down here. Okay, cool. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually just duplicate this. Yeah, cool. So we've got the animated version as our reference, which is Neo Burrito. Can hide that. And you're now going to be the new master copy that we're going to work with. Whoops. I don't think we need the shotgun as the reference since we got the sizing figured out. Okay. All right. So we should start to color code this a bit. Now, ideally, if you really want to animate this, we would bind the arms of the crossbow to some bones, and as you pull back the string, we would have the crossbow bow. These would bow and flex. However, if we don't do that, and we just let the animation be on the string, what we can do is the string can be non-negotiable, right? That basically will be, weight painted to the bones, which will animate, and then these will just be static that we can just swap out with new designs, which we might do. That also means that we're going to need to rig the bolt. And the bolt, what we'll do is we will also make this a non-negotiable piece of the model. And we won't mess with that. We'll change out the texture maps on it and the materials to suit each of the new versions of the crossbow, but since that has to be rigged in order to look like it, the bolt's been shot, then we'll make sure that's not really ever messed with. Basically what we can do is when it triggers, we'll have like a frame where the bolt's shoved forward, and as soon as we show that one frame of the string snapping forward, the next frame will just pop it back into the clip, and that way it'll just look like the next bolt in the clip, which that way when we pull the string back and the next bolt pops out into position, it won't be, it's actually the same bolt just used over and over again, which also means that our dummy bolt that gets left in the clip is also going to need to be set in stone, and we're not going to mess with that one. We'll retexture it, but we won't actually remodel it. Okay, so we got the string, we got the bolt. I don't think we're going to want to reanimate the gears. That would be a giant pain in the butt. So we're going to say that these don't ever get changed either. So what we can do is we can add little like the centerpieces, the bolts that go through the center of the gear, those can be changed out, for other designs. If we want to add a little pizzazz to the design, give it a little more detail, a little more character, we can certainly do that. I think adding covering plates over top of the gears would also be reasonable. You can actually make like a really nice, cover that maybe only shows the gears popping out of the bottom along the rail. I think that's fine. I don't think we're going to want to change the design of the gear rails, the hooks, or the sliding rail. I believe those are very much going to need to stay static from each design. Those are very much going to need to stay the same and not change. I believe that the clip is also going to need to be static, because you're going to need to have the reloading animation be exactly the same. The clip needs to fit in here, and it also needs to have enough clearance to clear the handle. So I believe that we can actually change the handle, but the pin in the handle is going to need to change and be separate. So we're actually going to drop that down, and this is going to be a Y hanger. Actually, I don't need to do that. I'll just we'll just duplicate it. And we'll mirror it across, so won't be a problem. Yeah, there we go. Now we need to grab. I'm getting lost in the weeds again, but I don't care. I'm thinking about it. I don't want to forget, so I'm just gonna knock this out as a quick placeholder, and we'll. So everything right now is basically still within the proof of concept and design phase right now. Again, don't do this. This is bad production philosophy. You should be drawing as much of this out on paper and designing everything in concept phases before you try to do what I'm doing. But I'm not listening to my own advice. Do as I say, not as I do. Actually, you know what? I think I went about this the wrong way. There we go. Maybe we just do it this way. In fact, I would argue that in reality, I actually grab this and pull more towards the center. Okay, cool. So what that means is now what we have is we have a component where this is now the piece that's set in stone that we don't change, but now the handle can be adjusted for each design, and it is now not required to match a specific design or template. It can be redesigned and it can be used for aesthetic purposes instead of serving the functional purpose of the crossbow. So it can be, so now only this part needs to be part of the solidified template, and the handle can be changed out for other designs, which is good because that definitely works for us. So, so string, crossbow bolts, the hook and rails, the gear system, the handle rail, and that's pretty much it. Yeah. So those are the only components of the crossbow that will have to be a part of the template, and that cannot be altered or changed. Now, obviously, you know, to kind of state the obvious, the idea here is that we would copy the components on the right side of this crossbow over here to the left side, and that way we'd have a matching set on each side. But what we've done essentially is we've taken all the core essential pieces that would be animated and changed, and we've solidified them into a single design. Now, we could say that the trigger and the the catch, the string catch release, the catch and release, we could say that that's part of the template, but I don't think that's necessary, because really you just model a new catch, with a new design. You bind it to one bone, and all you're doing is you're just letting that bone rotate like this, and that's it. That is really basic. That's not anything particularly special. And so I don't really think that would be a problem. So that's, in other words, it's super easy to try to replace both this and this, because this is the same thing. It's going to be on a bone that just rotates back into the triggered, fired rotation. There you go. So everything else about the design can be altered and changed, which is what we want. Just not these core components. I know there's some clipping going on here. It's not a big deal. That's hidden underneath the crossbow, never to be actually seen or exposed. So in other words, it's definitely not a problem. We are going to insert some edge loops here, just arbitrarily. And we're going to grab some quick faces. Okay. Cool. And then we're going to grab here. Here and here. You know what though? Close enough. Nobody's gonna see that little clip, so I'm not gonna worry about it. In fact, probably no one's gonna see even what I'm doing here, but I'm doing it just for my own satisfaction of knowing I did a good job. There. It's definitely not even necessary, but I wanted to do it for my satisfaction of knowing that it follows some semblance of structural integrity, even though literally nobody cares except for me. Well, guess what? I care. Ain't nobody gonna give a crap but me. There's a life lesson in there somewhere, though, you know? Sometimes you gotta pick and choose the things that you want to do for yourself. And then sometimes you gotta let those things go for the sake of the project. But this is not one of those times. There we go. Structurally sound. Realistically designed, somewhat. Mechanically, this would never work in real life. But this is close enough to realism to satisfy my desire to balance realism versus something that just looks really cool. So. All right, guys, I'm done. I took a couple of breaks, but I've been working at this since like, I don't know, 1:30 or something like that. It is currently 5 o'clock. It's been a long time. I'm going to call it quits here. So thanks for joining me on this fun little endeavor. Hope this maybe helped you guys. Again, if anyone sees this stream VOD later and they have any questions, you can always drop comments down on the stream and on the video. I will do my best to answer them during my next stream. I am currently streaming, if my schedule holds and I actually keep to this commitment, I'm currently streaming every day during the week and sometimes on weekends. And sometimes doing multiple streams a day. In the evenings, I'm working on the 3D backgrounds for our comic, Swords and Roses. And during the afternoons, I'm working on 3D modeling for myself for building this weapons collection. So feel free to follow us on social media. You can find all of our links. I've got it up here on stream on the banner. You can also find my links on my channel and come say hi to us. Maybe check out Swords and Roses. It's a good little story. If anyone enjoys classic adventure story. And I'll catch you guys later. You guys have a good one.